I want you to explain your story in simple terms, and I cannot promise that I'm not going to interrupt because there's a lot going on here. So we're gonna wrestle with each other. We're gonna try to figure it out. But tell us about how AMD is acting as a backstop for Crusoe.
Sure. So Crusoe is a cloud company. They rent out NVIDIA chips and AMD chips. In this case, they are buying a pretty large slug of AMD chips, and AMD is basically helping them do that by agreeing to rent those chips if Crusoe can't find any other customers for them. And so, what this allowed Crusoe to do was go out and raise $300 million dollars of debt from Goldman Sachs at a pretty low 6% interest rate because the bank was sort of looking through to that AMD contract and saying, okay, there's basically guaranteed usage of these chips. And so Crusoe was able to raise a good chunk of money this way. And it's very similar to something that NVIDIA has done in the past, which I'm sure we can get into more.
Now, I just want to make something clear here. So the debt that Crusoe was seeking from Goldman Sachs in the first place, that was to buy AMD chips all along?
That's right. It's to buy the AMD chips and the equipment that goes around them,
Right.
and it's also collateralized by the chips, so that ultimately, if things went south, the lenders would be able to seize those chips and
Right.
sell them or do something else with them.
So basically, Crusoe is saying, "Hey, we're taking out the loan to buy the chips." AMD is saying, "We know you're taking out this loan. We're going to give you the chips, and you're going to pay us with the cash from the loan for the chips. But in the event that you can't live up to the requirements of the loan or the interest payments, we will help you rent out the chips because we know there's so much demand, and we'll use that revenue essentially to help you pay off the loan. Yeah, in the worst case scenario, but this is the whole backstop idea that they're helping them with.
Yeah, basically, AMD ultimately is trying to grow sales and grow usage of their chips. And, a lot of that will probably come from smaller companies. And it's kind of hard sometimes to predict where exactly that demand is going to come from. These companies are not signing 5-year take or pay contracts like some of the big cloud companies like Microsoft might be. And so, that's also part of this idea is that by AMD sort of guaranteeing um, the usage in the end, that allows Crusoe to feel a bit more liberty to go out and try to sell these to smaller customers that might not be the sort of the obvious big customers for these chips to start.
So where is AMD taking on risk in this equation?
Yeah, the main risk for AMD is, if Crusoe can't really find other people to rent these chips, then AMD will, be stuck with, a larger cloud bill to Crusoe than maybe it would have wanted. Um, but ultimately, that's in service of sales. So, it is sort of uh, circular in that way, and it's even though AMD bears some risk around the usage, they are getting to book a sale from this.
Right. More what I meant was, I mean, the way I was thinking about this was that, I mean, AMD would, when you say cloud bill, just unpack that for cloud bill in what sense?
Oh, in that they would be renting these chips through Crusoe's cloud business.
Through the okay, okay, got it. And so this is essentially, I mean, this is AMD saying, yeah, you've left us with all this extra work that we need to do. But I mean, then the fundamental question is, well, how much demand is there for AMD's chips? And I mean, that is sort of the next question is, what do we know about demand there? Is the demand as high as, we'll get to NVIDIA in a second, but, NVIDIA's chips, everyone wants them. Do they want AMD in the same way?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's a little bit hard to tell, first of all, because AMD doesn't exactly break out AI chip sales from the rest of its data center category. The CEO, Lisa Su, has said she wants to reach tens of billions of dollars in revenue from AI chip sales by next year. And anecdotally, just over the past year, I think with the growth of AI and the constraints around the supply of NVIDIA chips, you have seen companies like Meta, XAI, um, turning to AMD chips, maybe not at the same scale as they're turning to NVIDIA chips, but they're at least one option in the toolkit. And of course, OpenAI also committed to using up to 6 gigawatts, which is quite a lot. 6 gigawatts of power of AMD chips over time in exchange for a pretty large stake in the company. So that's another potential source of growth for AMD.
Now, the last question I want to ask you is with NVIDIA, we've talked about them leveraging a similar type of playbook. Do you see other companies employing this exact playbook as well? Other chip companies, other cloud companies? Where else could you see this playing out?
Yeah, I mean, one to watch obviously would be Google with what it's doing with TPUs. I could easily see the same playbook being used to help cloud companies that are renting out TPUs, like FluidStack, for instance, go out and raise debt. That's sort of the main one that comes to mind. But obviously, there are other big tech companies making their own chips. So seems like there's plenty of room to get creative here.
Great. Well, Miles, I want to thank you for coming on. That is Miles Kruppa, our AI and finance reporter here at The Information.